What's going on, guys? This is Cullen Smith with Espressivo Mini Musical Personalities Podcast, where we talk about all things in the field of music. And today we're going to be talking with Greg Haubrich, aka Butter, aka Attorney Butter, a fantastic jazz trumpet player, local OKC musician, and band leader for Butter in the Genre. He's going to be talking to us today a little bit about how you can go out and find your own people to make a band with and how you can start getting some gigs. So let's get right into it. So, we've been friends for like what? How many years?
Well, it's at least 6 or 7.
Yeah, at least 6 or 7, right? We met at like the UCO Jazz Camp back in 2021 or 2020, something like that.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I, I just that was something I didn't get to do when I was in high school. So me being an adult, it was at first kind of awkward for me to be there because I'm like I'm an adult at jazz camp, but it's actually at the UCO Jazz Camp. They had just about as many adults as they had high school students there. It was then because that's how we met.
That's true. I mean, we were in Zach Lee's combo in summer jazz camp there, and um, I just kept hearing the bass player sounded so good, and that was you. So that's so
Well,
then we started doing music together, and yay.
well, thank you for that. So you currently have a band, Butter in the Genre, and you started that in 2023, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
That's right.
So, like, what? Walk me through the process of like finding like musicians that like were willing to maybe do a reoccurring thing with like an official band, or walk me through like the process you went through to to do that, if you will.
So, like, I've been writing music for 30 years or so, and um, when I went back to college up at UCO, which I was sort of triggered to do that by um, being in band camp that year where you were at, and then Zach Lee, the uh, teacher up there, the trombonist and jazz composition teacher, called me up, and he was short of trumpet players for one of the big bands up there, and I jumped at that, and I went up and played in his band, and then I decided I wanted to go back to college and sort of learn the language of jazz, which I hadn't ever really learned. I mean, I did to some extent. I had a great high school music education with a high school instructor that was a jazz guy. Sorry about the noise. And then, um, and then I was a Navy musician, and that was a 6 month school that included a lot of jazz and a lot of big band playing. And I had been able to do that for a long time. So anyway, I went back to learn the language of jazz, to study music theory and jazz theory. And I played in some of the bands up there, including some that you were in. And I was in Dr. Guy's jazz theory class one day, and he said, "While you guys are here, I encourage you to form a band." And I looked around that room and I saw all these great musicians in there, you know, and I already had a big songbook because I've been writing and recording music and playing, with my friends and in my home studio here for years and years. So I thought, bingo. So I said, all right, I want to do a jazz quintet or a quartet. I want to have a band to do like parties and professional gigs and weddings and jazz because I think jazz is the vibe. Jazz sets the tone for the conversation, and you can really um, have a nice event going on with them. Jazz is just kind of setting the background for you. Yeah. So I did that, and to my surprise, everybody that I asked said yes. I was like, okay. So I formed my original band, um, and then um, I had a quintet. We weren't getting any gigs, but I mean, just a little bit. And then one night at the Speakeasy, the 51st Street Speakeasy, Calliope came up and was on stage, and I was there at the same time. And it was her turn to sing and my turn to play. And she said, "Could we do Bye Bye Blackbird?" And I said, "Sure." So we did. And the first three notes came out of her mouth. I said, "Holy, who is that?" Because her voice is so. So the next week, after back checking her a little bit, I asked Calliope if she'd be interested in joining my jazz quintet and make it a sextet. And Since then, we've added guitarists. That's Draven, who's a wonderful guitarist. Now we have 7, and we can break down to a 3 or up to a 7, or play as as a big stage band, or we can play as a small group in an art gallery, or whatever it is. It's very flexible because I struggled over the name. Like, it had to have Butter in it because people around here know me, so there's a little bit of name recognition, and I'm Attorney Butter in my professional persona. So it had to have Butter in it. And then when I finally came to genre, I thought that's it, because nobody got that. No, there's people that have Butter, but there's nobody got genre. And it means a lot because jazz is both a genre and multi-genre, and the word genre is both singular and plural. So Butter in the genre. And so that's how it started, and we're still here 3 years later. So yay.
Fantastic. So like, what I'm gathering is just like sometimes going to like these jam sessions or just being on the scene somehow, and just the power of going up to somebody and just asking is sometimes still probably the best way of doing anything. I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I mean, I see a lot of musicians like post their videos of them practicing or whatever on social media, and I do the same. I have a practice account on Instagram that I use to post stuff, or like these stupid little skits I do, or whatever the case
Right.
may be. And I think some people sometimes, I don't know. I remember my teacher, Dr. Geib, saying something about like, man, I'll tell you what, I'm doing my best Dr. Geib impression. If he's watching this, I'm sorry, please don't sue me. But I don't think he will. I think he'll love it. But
Wait, I gotta go get my hat.
I've got a hat just like the ones he usually wears in my bag, like that I'm getting ready to take with me to Austria to the GSIM. Except it's like metallic blue, but it's like just the same kind of hats that he wears. It's fantastic, like the paperboy hats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But oh my gosh, he's gonna see this and he's gonna think, Cullen, what were you on during this podcast? But anyway,
What are you on? What are you on?
nothing.
Never mind.
Nothing at all.
I know you. I know you well enough to know better. Go ahead.
Yeah. And but he I'll tell you what. I remember it was actually at the UCO Jazz Camp where we met. He was like, "Man, I'll tell you what. Like, it's cool to post all the stuff on social media, but nothing is quite like actually getting out there and meeting real people and actually like talking to them. Of course, like like back in the Stone Age, I guess. I don't consider it that way, but there's definitely something to be said for like getting out and like going to like local shows or going to like the jam sessions and being like, hey, my name's Greg, or I go by Butter and I play trumpet, and I'm always looking to network, and like here's my contact info, or whatever the case might be, or it's just there's something about just getting out there in person and just not being afraid to interact with people. I mean, I don't know about you, but like post COVID, I feel like there's like this. I mean, I've seen it with myself and with a bunch of other people, but I feel like there's like this whole like mentality of like, oh, I don't really have to go out and do much. I can have DoorDash deliver it for me, or whatever the case might be. And there is some benefits to all that, but at the same time, it's like I feel like post COVID we've lost a lot of like the interpersonal connections, if you will, that really make the music industry go. And so like I find that very fascinating that like. You talk about how you found Calliope like through a jazz jam session at the 51st Street Speakeasy in OKC, because quite frankly, that's how a lot of bands get started. They meet up at like other shows or jam sessions or whatever, and they somehow just intermingle and they just vibe really well together.
I mean, I think the thing for me, Colin, is when like I've sort of developed the ability, I think, to hear who's going to sound good with me and who's going to sound good with my group, and putting a band together and keeping it together. There's a lot of components to that. Like, I've had to become a band leader and by which I mean on stage, I'm responsible to keep, to set the tone and set the order of the band, and kind of be a little bit of a director of the energy and the form that comes out of the band. And that's something I never had really done before. And something else I've had to do is be a better trumpet player and a better musician because the people around me in my band are great musicians with advanced degrees and stuff. And so I can't be the slouch in the band. But, and then there's a lot about personality too. You want to have people that are, uh, I'm the band leader, but I'm not the boss unless I just have to make a decision. And when I do that, I'll try to do it in as much of a collegial way as possible, both musically and personally, because um, we're here to have fun. Playing jazz is the most exciting thing you can do in the world, as far as I'm concerned. It's spontaneous, it's instantaneous, and the minds have to meld and the instruments have to meld. Um, Two stories. Crosby, Stills, Nash. The first time they sang together, they said, "Oh, crap! These voices sound," and that became Crosby, Stills, Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young because the blend of their voices. And in our band, when we play something in unison with Jaron on sax and me on trumpet or muted trumpet and Calliope singing like Bebop Arela along with us, it sounds like one voice. That's one unique voice that you never heard anyplace else anywhere in the world because the unison of those voices is just such a nice match. And another part of it that had a big impression on me, and I've tried to follow through on this, is it's not necessarily about having the greatest technical or even the most educated or most skillful musicians. I mean, those things are all important, but it's how the people fit together as musicians. And when Duke Ellington put together his great bands, people were often surprised at like, why did he pick that guy to be his trumpet soloist, or why did he pick that guy for his second tenor sax, or whatever it was? And Ellington said because they would sound good with each other, and that's kind of what you're trying to produce. So, like in our album, um, one of the things that I aim for, and when we play, one of the things I aim for is to do jazz that will sound good to anybody, even if you're not a jazz aficionado. You know, you don't have you don't have to be deep into Monk or Train or even Miles Davis to enjoy the sound of good jazz if it's played in a way that's meant to represent the American popular music that jazz is, and that's what we do in all its forms. We do funk, we do soul, we do ballads, we use some hip hop rhythms, we do Latin, we do swing, we do bebop, and most of it's original, and that's all jazz. That's but it's we've just made some changes. I changed out the drummer because I had the ability to put in a drummer who will push the band instead of following the bass player. The bass player is the pulse, but that drummer's got to make the band go. And we were lucky to get Isaiah Thomas in, and people say, "You got Isaiah Thomas in your band?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, man." So, so that's the way that goes.
It's fascinating how you mentioned it's like it's gotten to a point where you're like I can tell who will probably mesh well with the voices and the timbres and all that stuff in my band, and who maybe at this point maybe wouldn't work as well. Not like that they're not a good musician or anything. It's just they might not fit the role that I need them for in my band or whatever the case might be. It's fascinating that you've gotten to that point, and it's like you're able to kind of decipher like, man, this person would be great if they like came in and were like a guest on this album or on this gig. Um, by the way, speaking of gigs, um, do you have any advice to anybody out there who has like just started a band, or maybe they're a solo artist and they're looking to regularly gig? Like, I mean, I gig a lot, like in the Oklahoma City metro area in the state of Oklahoma, probably more than I need to. Losing sleep a little bit here and there. I have a gig with the Enid Symphony Orchestra tomorrow, and immediately the next day at like 6 a.m. I have to go run band camp and orchestra camp at my high school where I teach. But I'm taking the gig because I really want to play with the Enid Symphony. But it's taken me like 10 years to get to the point where I got called for the professional orchestra gig, one of the big four professional orchestras in the state of Oklahoma. Um, Do you have any advice to
What,
any?
what are you gonna be? What are you gonna be playing?
It's the Fourth of July concert that got canceled last week. It's a pops concert, so like we're playing some, we're playing like the Stars and Stripes Forever. That's one thing. We're doing Empire Strikes Back. We're doing Harry Potter. I love pops concerts.
So it's a pops concert.
It's a pops concert. It's my favorite type of concert to do. I mean, Beethoven,
How many bassists are there going to be in the section?
probably two or three. I know there's at least
Okay.
two, but there's usually at least three or four. Um, but I'll play Beethoven five and Strauss. Like I love all that music, but man, I love pops concerts. I mean, call me culturally tasteless. I don't care. People in the comments section might say that. I don't care. I love me a
Oh,
pops concert
there's
because
there's nothing like a good march. And I was a Navy musician, and
yeah.
I I came out of the Navy and said I'll never march again, but I didn't say I'll never play a march again. you know.
I did it the same way. I was in marching band and I
Yeah.
loved it for what it was, but I'm like, man, I don't think I will ever do any of the marching stuff again as a performer. Uh, but
Hey, Cullen, I am literally going to have to check out of here in about 3 or 4 minutes.
okay,
So first thing I want to do is mention, um, because I assume this is going to be published pretty quick, is this Saturday, which is July 11th at 9:30 p.m. My band is playing at Scissortail Park, and it's going to be great. It's a whole jazz concert with Nelson Gonzalez Group,
nice.
Savoy Trio, and then my band at 9:30. And you're doing the jazz camp for the kids at Mount St. Mary's, right?
Yeah, doing
Or band camp.
the band and orchestra
Yeah.
camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So, but I mean, your original question was how do you develop and put together a band and how do you find gigs? And I'm still exploring that, but my band has become enough of a thing that I spend about, a third of my workday besides my law practice. I spend about a third of my work at least on promoting my band and for example, we are getting hired to do a wedding at a wedding venue. I'm going to go out and meet those people at the venue so that they um, will remember us the next time they've got a call about a wedding. I'm going to leave them a copy of our CD and a little bit of stuff because it's a venue that we'd like to play again. And I think if you want to get out there and play in public, number one, do come to the jams. And there's more and more of them around now. The best one is 51st Street Speakeasy on Wednesday nights. But we're lucky to have that here and have a lot of it here. And another great way is just to go to the places where we have live music, and there's so much of it in Oklahoma City now, and there's so much live jazz in Oklahoma City around here. And go and say hello and meet the musicians. But I also think it's just go and try to create your own venue. You know, we shouldn't be trying to take gigs away from each other. We should be expanding the marketplace of this wonderful music that we play. And that's the great thing about the jazz community around here is that we really try to do that. And one way to do that is, like I said, go and make the personal contact with the owner of the venue where you think maybe they'd like to have some live music in there on a Sunday morning for brunch and play piano and sing or play guitar and sing. I mean, that goes, a coffee shop and just play for tips. I mean, I played for so many years for nothing because I just had to play music and it was so important. Well, what that did for me over time is I had musicians that I knew that knew how gifted I am and how good my music is. And that's helped me find other musicians and put it together. So, I never really imagined this would come to me when I'm like in my 70s.
you never
But
know.
here it is.
I mean,
But here it is. We're a signed record artist. We're getting gigs that pay real money. We're starting to make a living where we can supplement our income and make money as musicians in a way that's more meaningful than just, tip money. And I'm really happy about it. So the the other thing is practice, practice, practice. If you want to be a performing musician, you've got to play that instrument every day, a lot. You know, and there's one of the saddest things I hear, Colin, and you hear it all the time is, I used to play trumpet,
I
or
you,
I used to play saxophone, or I used to play flute. And
every day it seems. I encounter somebody because, like, I mean, music, like the field, the academia, it's on my brain all the time. It's obsessive, and I don't think it's in an unhealthy way, but for all I know, it is. If a psychiatrist were to examine me for a week, they'd probably be like, "Aren't you like a normal human being sometime?"
No, 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 no. All of us that have these great musical gifts are also we are all neurodivergent. You know,
I believe it.
yeah, yeah. It's just because it's the gift of being able to create music, and not only that, like we don't even know where the music from inside of us comes from, but then how we do it with each other. And I've got to close, but I want to say, y'all, Cullen is a fabulous musician, and the way he uses the bow on the instrument in jazz is really special, and that's a difficult. That's a challenge.
It
But I
is.
mean,
It is.
I just in the last year, his jazz playing has gone like up about 10 levels. It's so much faster and more even, and it's just really great. And that's because practices and works at it.
Practice, 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 and connections,
Yep.
connections. And if you don't have either or, that's okay. Everyone starts out that way. You just have to be willing to do something about
I can't believe I got episode number 1. This is neat. Thanks, man.
it.
I gotta go.
Alrighty. Thank you for being on. Well, there you have it, folks. Connections, connections, connections. Practice, practice, practice. Go out to the jam sessions. Go out to any of the shows. And just do not underestimate the power of asking the questions. Hey, do you want to start a band? Hey, do you think we could play a gig at your venue? Or hey, can I start a venue? You may have the resources to do that for all I know. So just following some of those pieces of advice, I know for me has worked out really well, and I know for Greg it's worked out as well. You can check out Butter and the Genre. A link to some of their content will be below in the description. I highly recommend you check out their group. I've had a chance to play with their group a couple times before. It's always a fantastic, fun vibe, always a great time, and I do not think you'll be disappointed by their music. So, see you guys later. Have a great day.